Hey guys, all right, so I was going to give you a little bit of instruction on kind of how to do this particular lab. What you need to do is, if you have a printer, I hope you do, but if you don't, that's okay. If you have a printer, I would like for you to print this and fill it in, and then you can take a picture of it and put it in the Dropbox it's due next Monday. It's due next Monday at 11:59, so basically before next Tuesday. So you've got quite a bit of time. But if you don't have a printer, just get a piece of paper and put like part A and put number 1 and write all the answers, and that's what you are going to have to upload to that Dropbox because it needs to be in your own handwriting. All right, so this first one, let me see if I can first off, you're just supposed to determine whether or not it's an ionic, covalent, or metallic bond. So if it's an ionic bond, let me kind of write this over here. Ionic is metals and nonmetals. I really shouldn't have written metals. I really should just write metal and nonmetal. Covalent is nonmetal and nonmetal. So you're going to have to look at a periodic table that shows you, the metal versus nonmetal side. And then metallic, I feel like there's 2 L's. Yep. There it is right there. Metallic is metals only. Okay, so like for the first one, see how it says iodine pentafluoride? See this like penta right here? That's a really good clue that you're talking about a covalent. Now, even if you wouldn't notice that prefix right there, see how this is iodine and then you've got fluoride right here? So if you look at the periodic table, iodine and fluorine are both on the right side of the periodic table. Let me see if I can pull this over here. So let me erase some of this. If you look at the periodic table, right here is iodine and here's fluorine. So they're both nonmetals. So that's a really good clue that this is a covalent. Okay, so I'm giving you the answer for the first one. Let me go down one. So let's do magnesium phosphate. So magnesium is, make this a little bit bigger. Magnesium's over here, so it's on the left side of the periodic table, so this is going to be a metal. And phosphate, see this 8 right here? You're not going to find phosphate on the periodic table because 8 is a good clue that you're talking about one of those polyatomic ions from that table 9.3. Well, if you looked at phosphate on that table, you would see that. So you definitely need to be looking at table 9.3 for this lab, okay? Table 9.3 is going to show you that phosphate's like PO4 3 negative or something like that. And magnesium, how do you find the ion for it? Well, it's 2+. Really though, you don't need to do the ion for this. I just wanted to show you that magnesium, since it's a metal, and phosphate, since it has this negative charge right here, that's kind of like a metal and a non-metal. So this would be an ionic. Okay? And so like this one, for example, let me erase some of these others so they're not like all in the way. This one. So we've got iron 3, which means that it's iron 3+, and sulfate, which is SO4 2 negative, I think. You guys might have to check me on that one. But since this is a plus and this is a negative, then you've got another ionic compound there. Okay? So that's basically what you have to do for this section. Now it goes down and it asks you with the formulas. So see like this one for a minute. PCl3, if you go over here on the periodic table, P is over here and Cl is over here. So those are both non-metals, which means that you are dealing with a covalent bond there. Okay, so that's it. That's all you do on the first part. You just tell me if it's a covalent, an ionic, or a metallic. Okay, so if it's just one element that's a metal, it's a metallic. All right, part B. This one shouldn't be too bad because this is where you just have to do the crossover thing. So you take this +1 and you drag it down, and I just like totally went over everything when I did that. So let's see. Yeah, there we go. All right, so take this +1 and drag it down. Take this 2 negative and drag it down. So you should end up with K2CO3. Now, do you need a parentheses? If there's just one, see how there's just this one plus right here and you're dragging it down? So no, you don't need parentheses. Now, let me do another one. Let's do this one. All right, so we've got Ca2 plus. So you're going to take that 2 and you're going to drag it down. See how this is NO3 negative, which just means -1. So you basically take that 1 and drag it down. So you have Ca1, but you don't write a 1, okay? NO3 2. Now, why did I put parentheses? Because that 2 has to go to all of this, okay? So, you don't have to draw those arrows. All right. Let's do number 4 really quick because it's a little bit different too. So, if you did this, you might be inclined to do like SR2, S2. But if these numbers are divisible by something, like they're both divisible by 2, obviously, then you reduce it. Okay, so what do I mean by reduce? If I take 2 and divide it by 2, what do I get? You get 1. So it's basically SRS. Okay? That's all you do for that part is just do the crossover thing. I'm trying to scroll here and it's not letting me for some reason. Maybe, there we go. So then go on to part C. Part C gets probably a little bit trickier just because you have the words, the formula words, but it doesn't give you the formula. You have to kind of figure out what the formula is. So first, the hint, it says, is really what you want to do is determine if it's an ionic or a covalent, because if it's an ionic, then you have to do that crossover thing. If it's a covalent, then you just really have to know what the prefixes mean. So we'll do a few of them. All right, so calcium bisulfate. Now, this is where you're really going to want to have that polyatomic ion table. Okay, so let me bring that up really quick. Let's bring that up over here, and let's do, I don't want either of those really, but I'll go ahead and do connect. I'll go over here to the book, and I'll zoom in here. All right, so this first one is calcium bisulfate. Do you guys see bisulfate on this table right here? It's in parentheses, by the way. It's hydrogen sulfate or bisulfate. All right, so see how it's a polyatomic ion? Since it's an ion, that's a good clue that that's an ionic compound right there. So what you would want to do is you have to figure out what the ion for calcium is. So if you look at the periodic table, hopefully you guys have that in front of you, you'd see that calcium is in the second group, which means that it's +2. And bisulfate is HSO4 -1. So you got to do the crossover thing, which means that you would end up with CaHSO4 2. And that's what you do for that, for the, those ones that are ionic. So if I did, let's say number 2, magnesium bicarbonate. There we go. Magnesium is number 2. Look over here at the table for bicarbonate. I can't say that for some reason. Okay, so look over here. You see that bicarbonate is HCO3. And it's just one negative again. So you do the crossover thing and you end up with Mg parentheses HCO3 2. Okay? That's what you do. See this one that says nickel 2 acetate? What does that 2 mean? So that's kind of getting into this table up here. That's this table 9.2. So nickel with the Roman numeral 2 means Ni2+. And acetate is one of these polyatomic ions. See how all of these end in 8? That's a good clue that you need to look at that polyatomic ion table. All right, so acetate is C2H3O2. And it's just one negative. So when you go to do the crossover, you get Ni parentheses C2H3O2, and then you have to write this 2 at the end here. Okay? All right, so that's some examples of the ionic ones. I'm going to come down here to like number 7. So this is an example of a covalent. And you see how carbon is a nonmetal? If the first element is a nonmetal, then you are like most likely dealing with a covalent compound. Okay? So if it's a covalent, all you have to do for the formula is just know what that means, basically. There is no prefix on carbon, so that just means that there's one. And tetrachloride, so that tetra, if you look at the prefix table, that's a couple of sections over, but I'll go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. So if you go over here to this last section, nope, not that one. Hopefully I'm not making you guys sick right now. Kind of make myself, when I was looking at that, it was very blurry. All right, so see how you've got some prefixes here. So tetra is 4, so that just means that it's CCl4, because tetra means that there's 4 chlorides. So then number 8, dihydrogen monoxide. Di means 2, so H2 monoxide just means 1 oxygen. Okay? So that's all you have to do for that part. And then part D, you do the opposite. So it gives you the formula, and then you have to come up with what the name is. So like for instance, H and I. Well, what is that? And you know what? If I were you, I'd go over here and I'd go, okay, that's a covalent bond. O and F, that's a covalent bond. How do I know that? Because H and I are both nonmetals. O and F are both nonmetals. Okay? Then, like number 4, Na is a metal, and SO4 is a polyatomic ion. See how you've got 3 capital letters there? That means that you're dealing with a polyatomic ion, which means that you have an ionic bond. Sorry about that. I was getting choked up. So, whenever you go to name this, you have like hydrogen. If ever the first element doesn't have a number below it, a subscript, if there's just one of them, then you just name the element. And then for the second element, even if there's just one of them, you have to put a prefix no matter what. So monoiodide. So then what do you think the second one would be? You just name the first element if there's just one of them. So oxygen, difluoride. Then for the fourth one, you just name the metal. So sodium, and then whatever the polyatomic ion's name is. So look at your polyatomic ion table, and you would see that that is sulfate. Okay? So I hope that helps you a little bit. If not, guys, I would really like for you to ask me, if you're doing it right, try to do a few before you ask me. And then we'll go through, and if we need to do a Zoom meeting, we can. I only have so much time, but honestly though, if you need help with this, let me know. So I would be starting it as soon as you can. All right? All right. Good luck.